it, this is not intermittent. It is continuous. It shaped how people navigate through their days, how they make decisions, how they imagine their futures. It becomes part of the background of life, quietly entering routines, relationships, and even silences. As Bibinaz, a renowned anthropologist, reminds us, violence does not stay confined in the moment it occurs. It bleeds into everyday life. It is lived through gestures, hesitations, and what we cannot easily say. What happens appears from a distance as an event is, for those within it, an ongoing condition. It is carried not only in the memories, but it is in the very texture of daily life. This difference in perception, the lived reality versus the distant observation, must be taken seriously now. This is not a game, not a form of entertainment. Living continuously in a state of conflict turns every step into an obstacle to progress. It is within this gap that indifference quietly takes root, and once it does, violence stops shocking humans as it should be. The bomb blast, the gunfires, it doesn't shock people anymore. And I'll come to more details of why it doesn't happen. Speaking of the recent terrorizing attack by the suspected armed cookie militants, the death of two little babies and the injured mother in a bomb blast, three protesters reportedly killed in gunfire from the CRPF security forces for protesting and raising their voices becomes something a distant observer noticed briefly and then moved past. To understand the loss we are addressing today, we must also situate it in time and specific contexts. The current phase of violence in Manipur did not begin yesterday. It escalated sharply in May 2023, as we all know, following tensions around land, identity, political recognition. What began as conflict over competing claims hardened into polarized narratives. Communities were increasingly framed as fixed opposing groups. Early media coverage simplified these tensions into binaries, majority versus minority, Hindu versus Christian. Over time, these framings hardened into sharper ethnic divides between the Meiteis and the Cookies. In these moments, narratives do not just describe reality. It shapes the reality. Stories of threats, victimhood, and retaliation circulated widely. They amplified fear and narrowed the space for dialogue. State authorities, on the other hand, did not intervene promptly to stop the chaos, or attempts fell short. Gradually, these narratives strengthened identities along lines of division, making coexistence seem almost impossible. Amid these narratives, certain voices recede, the voices of the most affected, the injured, the bereaved, the displaced, the internally displaced persons who lost their homes in relief camps are often overshadowed by social media stories and hostile narratives claiming to speak for them. Discussions often shift to historical, political context and policy debates. Responses are framed in representation of victims but are not always grounded in their lived realities. The state leadership resigned on February 5, 2025 after this cultivated ethnic violence escalated and armed groups mobilized alongside polarized narratives. No party could form a stable government, and the president's rule was imposed on February 9, 2025. We all know the details through whatever sources that we get from the internet. Disarmament became a state priority, but implementation was uneven. Security forces recovered a significant number of looted police weapons, including rifles and ammunition, authorities called for voluntary surrender of arms. Meiteis, who took arms, citing community protection, largely complied. Armed groups in Kuki-dominated areas were less responsive, arguing that their weapons were not looted from state armories.